On March 19th, 1994, a group of 4 friends, who were all members of a Minnesota rescue team, went diving off the coast of Destin, Florida. What should have been the trip of a lifetime became a dark reminder that the sea is unforgiving.
I had a feeling something was going to go wrong. Roald had had major cancer surgery a year and a half before with 4 months of chemotherapy, and I knew he was still tired. But I also know what a careful diver he is, and he likes it, and I like him to be happy.
Cliff Schmidt was the most experienced diver in the group.
This was Mike and Roald's first time in saltwater, so they were really excited about it. Most of the diving we do at home is black water diving in ponds and rivers, removing cars, looking for evidence, bodies.
Rocky Whites had made more than 2,000 dives.
It was a 24-hour drive down here, and we didn't get a lot of sleep.
Although he never dived in the ocean, Mike Hubrid had been freshwater diving for 4 years.
Me and Roald Knudsen were partnered up, but between the first and second dive, I felt a little motion sickness, so I just decided just to stay on top. Roald then went over to Cliff and Rocky and asked them if he could partner up with them.
Yeah, I'll stay in the center, Rocky on this side, and you on my side, and just dive tight, okay? We really are a close-knit group. We know breathing patterns, we know how people are feeling, so I had no concern. Okay.
The Florida trip was basically a fun dive and also a learning dive. Cliff was training us in nitrox diving. Roald and Cliff were wearing the AGA mask that encloses your full face.
"10 to 15 minutes into the dive, I checked my air supply, then grabbed over and checked Roald's. His air was down to about 1,500 psi, which I felt was fairly low for the amount of time we'd been down. It was at that point that we made the signal to head back to find the anchor line. I didn't find it. I thought I'd better check the air supply again just to see how we're doing. Roald is now down to 1,000 psi, and I was really kind of shocked, thinking that, wow, he's really going through air.
Cliff looked at me, motioned up, which kind of caught me by surprise.
I couldn't see any problem. He looked fine. He was just breathing a lot.
Cliff was rotating, looking for the anchor line, and Roald just bolted away from us, headed for the surface. I still don't understand why he didn't do what we're trained to do, just borrow air from Cliff or myself.
As I looked back up, Roald was coming back down towards us, face first.
He was headed for the bottom at a very fast rate of descent, with his hands just dangling behind his body.
He hit the bottom in about 83 feet of water, face first, right on.
Clifford and I picked him up, stood him up, and looked into his mask to see what the problem was. and his face was distorted.
I couldn't recognize his eyes, I couldn't recognize his cheeks, I couldn't recognize anything. I immediately went to remove the spider of the band that holds the mask on, give him air.
I don't know what dead people look like, but this was it. His tongue was sticking out as far as a tongue could possibly go. There was fluid coming out of every cavity of his face.
He couldn't take the air, and the only thing I could do was to get Rolled to the surface right away. So we started a free ascent with Rolled in tow at a much faster rate that I was comfortable with.
I felt this would be nothing more than an exercise in bringing a corpse to the surface.
Captain, we have a problem.
All I was thinking is that, my God, somebody that I had certified, I had known as a personal friend, I took him on a dive, and now he's dead.
I don't know what happened. He sunk back to the bottom.
You just couldn't tell it was him. That's where to describe it, the big gigantic hickey. You can see the perfect outline of the mask.
Some oxygen for him.
I do first aid as a normal duty with the Sheriff's Department. And I started positive pressuring him. And in positive pressuring, you're actually putting as much oxygen as you can into the victim's lungs.
Hold back. We're about 8 miles southwest of Destin. We're heading in. We're making about 16 knots. Our location.
As he exhaled, a bloody froth appeared.
We got the Coast Guard coming, Rolled. Just hold on. Stay with us, buddy. Hold on. We're going to be there in a minute.
Within 3 minutes, they had a pulse back. If I were to ever be involved in a diving accident, I would want that same group of people to be there for me.
The Coast Guard boat brought Okaloosa County paramedic Dan Harris to the scene.
Diving. We brought him up from 83 feet unconscious.
He looked like the old sci-fi human fly type thing. His whole face was probably going on a half again its normal size.
Valve's clear.
My fear is, can I get this man to a dive chamber alive? But to my surprise, he's talking to me.
Dr. Mead, what we have here.
At Baptist Hospital, 63-year-old Roald Knutson was examined by emergency physician John Mead.
His symptoms were not consistent with the bends other than our lingering concern about his vision.
What about now?
We think he was extremely lucky.
Can you wiggle your fingers and toes for me?
Get it spray in here.
A year has passed since the incident.
I felt the last breath, and I looked at my gauge, and I was at 30 feet. And that's the last I remember. I passed out like a light switch and went plummeting to the bottom.
Every time I hit the ball in front of my face, I get a face full of sand.
All of my diving friends from the past 10 years thought, why did this happen to Roald? He's always been one of our more cautious divers. But on this trip, we made several mistakes. We should have rested for a whole day. I was probably 15 pounds overweighted. The biggest mistake I made was not watching my gauges. And instead of diving one-on-one, I went in a threesome. Of course, those are two fellows that saved my life.
Let's go diving, that's easier.
I have completely physically recovered from the accident, except for a little bit of peripheral vision off my left eye.
I was amazed that Roald didn't have any diving maladies. The AGA mask did not allow any water into Roald's lungs. Also, diving with the nitrox gave Roald the advantage of having more oxygen in his system.
What saved this man was the quick thinking of the other divers. They recognized a diver in trouble and got him with a rapid but safe ascent, got him on oxygen straight away.
No, don't do that.
Roll's wife, Carol, had joined him at the hospital that day.
The doctor said there'd been extensive hemorrhaging behind the eyes. That was the first time I was really frightened, because I was trying to imagine what our life would be like if he couldn't read, if he couldn't work, if he could drive his car.
10 miles?
Looking the way he did, he said to me, I am not going to tell you what you want to hear. I am going to go on diving.
Here's to the 3 best divers and EMTs on this continent. Here's to you.
I was a dead man for between 4 to 5 minutes, and they put themselves at great risk of getting the bends or having decompression sickness. Cliff and Rocky and Mike are my guardian angels. I owe my life to them.
When we go swimming tomorrow, you'd better be near me. You're the swimmer.
Every day is another day that needs to be cherished, and I don't worry about tomorrow. I've got a lot of good years left in me if I don't break any more rules.
Next,
he was basically at the end of his rope. There was no doubt that we were just moments from somebody dying.